And now let's talk about our big focus story. Karnataka is one among the top 3 big states in the country with high groundwater contamination, along with Rajasthan and Tamil Nadu, as almost all the 30 districts in the state showed fluoride and nitrate content, exposing crores of people to illnesses like fluorosis and cancer. So that's the gravity of the situation. Karnataka toxic water menace. Here's the fact file on your screen. It is, like I said, among the top 3 states with high water toxicity. Samples from 28 districts show iron contamination. This is as per a study conducted by the Government of India in 2019. Water quality has been deteriorating rapidly as per this report. The permissible limit of arsenic exceed in many districts. That is the cause of contamination. Now let's talk about why the matter has reached this level. There is a consistent rise in the use of chemical fertilizers. That's one of the reasons cited in this report. Water pumps with high nitrate content. That's another reason. High demand leading to higher exploitation. So that is again part of the systemic faults due to which water contamination is happening. Like I said, study conducted by the Government of India. This is a report presented in the Lok Sabha as well. So Karnataka groundwater in the samples drawn from 28 districts way back in 2018 highlighted this problem. The crisis over exploitation, improper management of industrial effluents, all of this have added up. Data has been released from the Department of Drinking Water and Sanitation that was tabled in Parliament. So why are we bringing this up today? That is what I'll go across to my colleague Neha, and she'll tell us why. 3 people have died in Raichur in Karnataka after consuming contaminated water. So things have really reached this proportion where human lives are now being lost. Neha, if you are with me, very good evening. Tell us about this problem of groundwater contamination and drinking water contamination. In a way, 3 lives lost has become another big eye-opener in a state like Karnataka.
Well, that's absolutely right, Afrida. You know, this was just a sheer accident and very unfortunate one at that, where 3 people have lost their lives. We did speak with the district administration of Raichur, and what they went on to mention was that there happened to be a leakage in a pipeline, owing to which contaminated water happened to enter the drinking water pipeline. And following that is how we're seeing, after people consumed this, we're actually seeing how 3 people have died, about 60 were hospitalized, and 3 were, in fact, 3 are still hospitalized and continue to receive treatment. Now, this is rather shocking over here, because this is not the first time that we've seen an incident like this in Karnataka. It was about 3 years ago also from another district in the state, where we saw how, the similar fashion, water had been contaminated. A pipe had broken. The contaminated water had entered the drinking water pipeline. There was a mix, and several people had fallen sick. So, this brings us back to the question of, Afrida, there are 2 things over here. The first being the fact that we're still looking at how in most parts today of the state, that this chemical fertilizer which is added to the water, to maintain its pH level and to ensure that it's actually potable, this is still done manually. Now, could there have been an issue over there? That's something that we asked the district administration, but they went on to deny that and said that it was at the distribution point where the water got contaminated, and not at the bulk point wherein the water is actually, stored or pumped into the pipeline. So the question really, now comes down to what could have happened in that pipeline that led to this contamination. And it's really quite unfortunate that even after this entire fiasco that we're seeing over here, that one junior engineer has been fired, clearly, making him a scapegoat in this entire issue. Whenever there's been a death involved and a civic apathy at that, we've only been seeing how junior engineers are the ones being targeted. As far as action against the most senior officials are concerned over here, and those responsible for this directly or indirectly, the government hasn't taken any action yet. Back to you.
Absolutely. Thanks for putting things in perspective for us, Neha. Thanks for joining us. Well, so to talk about this issue of water contamination, like Neha pointed out, the official version, of course, this inquiry that is pending, the official version is this water accidentally got contaminated because of a pipe burst. However, this is a larger issue in Karnataka, and we cannot disassociate ourselves from the larger menace. How and why are our cities still struggling with something as basic as drinking water? Let's welcome, joining us here on the panel today is Anshuman Jaiswal, Associate Director of Water Resources Division of TERI, and also Brinda Adige, well-known activist, here on the program with us. Thank you so much for joining us. Before I come across to the two of you, let's listen in to the Chief Minister of the state, Basavaraj Bommai, who has taken note of this incident. This is what the Chief Minister says.
ರಾಯಚೂರಲ್ಲಿ 3 ಜನ ಕುಡಿಸಿದ ನೀರು ಕುಡಿದು ತೀರಿ ಹೋಗಿರುವಂಥ ವಿಚಾರ ಭಾಳ ಗಂಭೀರವಾಗಿ ಸರ್ಕಾರ ಪರಿಗಣಿಸಿದೆ. ಅದನ್ನು ಸಂಪೂರ್ಣವಾಗಿ ತನಿಖೆ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ KWSSB ಚೀಫ್ ಇಂಜಿನಿಯರ್ಸ್ಗೆ ಏನು ಕಾರಣ, ಮಳೆ ಬಂದು ಪೈಪ್ ಹೊಡೆದು ಸೇರಿದೆ ಅಂತ ಕೆಲವರು ಅಂತಾರೆ, ಕೆಲವರು ಯಥಾರ್ಥವಾಗಿ ಸೇರಿದೆ ಅಂತಾರೆ. ಅದು ಸಂಪೂರ್ಣವಾಗಿ ಟೆಕ್ನಿಕಲ್ ಒಂದು ರಿಪೋರ್ಟ್ ತರಿಸ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀವಿ. ಮತ್ತು DCಗೆ ರಾಯಚೂರಿನ ಎಲ್ಲ ವಾರ್ಡಿನ ನೀರನ್ನು ಸ್ಯಾಂಪಲನ್ನು ಟೆಸ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಿಸ್ಬೇಕು. ಕುಡಿಯೋ ನೀರಿನ ಸುರಕ್ಷತೆ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಸರ್ಟಿಫಿಕೇಷನ್ ಆಗಬೇಕು ಅನ್ನುವಂಥದ್ದು ಎರಡನೇ ವಿಚಾರ. ಮತ್ತು ಇದರಲ್ಲಿ ಏನಾದ್ರೂ ಅಧಿಕಾರಿಗಳ ಲೋಪದೋಷ ಇದೆಯಾ ಅನ್ನೋ ಸಲುವಾಗಿ ಅಲ್ಲಿಯ DYSP ನೇತೃತ್ವದಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದು ಪೊಲೀಸ್ ತನಿಖೆಯನ್ನು ಕೂಡ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ. ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ KWSSB ಇಂಜಿನಿಯರ್ ಸಹಾಯ ತೊಗೊಂಡು, ಟೆಕ್ನಿಕಲ್ ಸಹಾಯ ತೊಗೊಂಡು ಪೊಲೀಸ್ ಎಂಕ್ವೈರಿನ ಕೂಡ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ. ಮತ್ತು ತಪ್ಪಿಸ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದರೆ ಅವ್ರ ಮೇಲೆ ಕ್ರಮವನ್ನು ಕೂಡ ತೆಗೆದುತೀವಿ. ಮತ್ತು ತೀರಿ ಹೋದವ್ರಿಗೆ ನನ್ನ CM ರಿಲೀಫ್ ಫಂಡ್ನಿಂದ 5 ಲಕ್ಷ ರೂಪಾಯಿ ಪರಿಹಾರವನ್ನು ಕೂಡ ನಾನು ಕೊಡಲು ತೀರ್ಮಾನವನ್ನು ಮಾಡಿದ್ದೀನಿ.
Anshuman Jaiswal, clean drinking water, something as basic as that. You have people, especially from the lower middle class society, struggling for something like this. The government is clearly responsible for failing in this front. Now, I would like to know your assessment of this particular incident. 3 people have died. Of course, the CM says that we will do an assessment of all the wards in Raichur, so there could be a larger problem. But what is the chance that this could have happened because of one leakage somewhere and the mixing up of water going into drinking water that could have caused these deaths?
So firstly, this is an unfortunate incident, and I think one has to look into the entire system. Drinking water is a very serious business to supply,
yes.
And one has to look into right from its treatment system, which is there for raw water to be treated for all the contaminants, known contaminants in the region. And Raichur has been known for various kind of contaminants, including arsenic and iron, as you said. But also into the distribution system, where from the water reaches to the consumer. Any of these, any particular point of this particular entire distribution system, if it is not maintained properly, if the assets are not regularly checked, the chances of such kind of accidents is quite high. Many places in our country, the entire supply network is either dilapidated or probably they're very old. So asset management is very important. And I want to point out the fact that, not just the treatment of drinking water, but also the fact that we need to check whether the water that is supplied is regularly, of the quality that we are, intending as per the required, norms. And if any of these is not checked regularly, and if we do not have a contingency measure for such kind of accidents, unfortunate incidents like this is bound to happen. I would only, kind of point out to the fact that, the entire system needs to look into the entire treatment and supply of drinking water. This is an unfortunate incident without any doubt. And I would look into not many options which are available in today's time, including technology, to have a real-time monitoring of water quality, to your pipeline distribution system for any kind of risks that it may have. The systems are there. I think all that we need to do is check that regularly, monitor them regularly, and see that such kind of risks are avoided well in time.
Yes, the saddest part is 3 lives have been lost. In a way, Brinda Adige, 3 families are shattered. And this has happened because of absolute callous, cavalier attitude of the authorities. We heard Mr. Jaiswal say that this couldn't have happened if there were systems in place, if there are regular checks, if there is a foolproof asset management. Clearly, the maintenance part of it has failed. What is your take on what has happened in Karnataka?
Whatever you mentioned just now is absolutely 100% correct. What is not happening is accountability. Accountability by any of these officers. You also mentioned that a junior engineer has been suspended. Now, that junior engineer may be suspended for a week or 10 days. And we do not know after that what happens. Was there an inquiry? What did this inquiry come out with? What were the results? What are the recommendations based on that inquiry? None of these things ever come out. And because of that, these kinds of dangerous actions continue to happen and lives of citizens are lost. Now, we do not have a provision in India where a citizen whose life has been lost and their close members can go and file a criminal complaint in the police station against the duty bearers. Once such a law comes in, probably we can look at other things. But like Mr. Jaiswal mentioned, who is to bail the cat? Who is going to find out what are the reports? When was the last inspection done? When was the last time the pipes were changed? Who looked at all of these things? Who verified it? Somebody checked it, somebody verified it, and somebody must pass it. Who did all these things? None of that is on public domain. A country like India, calling ourselves digitized, still do not have all this information up in public domain, digitized, so that people can be questioned. And I think when our chief minister talks of it as an unfortunate incident, we must ask him not to make so light of it and say unfortunate. It is criminal negligence, and this criminal negligence must put everybody in the dock, not just a junior engineer. Everybody up there, till the last person up there who was responsible to check and maintain and verify. All of them must be booked. If you don't bring them to book, this will just remain another news.
Yes, and there are so many of these departments, Mr. Jaiswal, so many of these organizations, and during my research for this topic, I realized that there's a drinking water and sanitation department within the Water Resource Ministry. There's so many of these officers on taxpayers' money, and yet this happens. What would you suggest for course correction that something of this nature never happens again?
I would say that it's not that the awareness is not there. I mean, I keep interacting with many such officers who deal with the subject, and what is required, what is required to maintain, what kind of water quality is required to be supplied. All of this is quite known, well known. I would put it to the implementation gaps, where possibly right from the training and capacity building of the people on ground to the kind of system that we have, its agingness, and possibly looking at it in the context of the current relevance of technology. As I said earlier, the asset management, risk management, all of these are very critical part, which possibly has to be, put down to the last level of, management where the actual action is happening. So I would put it, to the fact that possibly somewhere the capacity didn't exist or the system didn't exist in terms of, having the right checks of the asset of the water quality and such kind of, incidences where possibly this cross-contamination happened and this unfortunate, again, incident happened. So I would not really sort of say that this is something which the system is not there, but possibly the functioning of the system is not that apt.
But that is bad enough. The system is there, but the functioning of the system is faulty, simply not acceptable. Brinda Adige, the fact is that these are deprived sections, and how will they even fight this battle? You can see those pictures. I'll play it out again. The families who are shattered, do they look like people who are going to even file a complaint, like you're saying these things should, actually invite a criminal negligence complaint? Are they people capable of doing so? So clearly the authorities up there know that they can get away with this. That's the reason why we are angry today.
You're absolutely right. Neither them nor even us, we will not want to file a complaint because it is such a tedious process. It is cumbersome, and it will take a minimum of 5 to 8 years before some kind of a logical conclusion is brought to a case. But what I want to reiterate over here is the non-accountability. Mr. Jaiswal says that the SOPs are there, but if that job description and responsibilities are already there, who is to pull them up? Who is to question them? Who checks them? Who monitors them? What is the time frame for monitoring? Is it 3 months to 1 year? When do you go check? You already know when the pipes were laid. So there is a certain amount of scientific information that after this many years, you want to change those pipes. So why hasn't all these been done? Who does it? Somebody has to question somebody. And if I am a junior engineer, then probably my boss has to question. And
Yes.
that boss will have to question. Now, if all of them wash up their hands and this junior engineer is suspended, you all know in the government that you can get away with it. That is the sad part. Nobody is going to bell the cat. Nobody is going to be pulled up. There's not going to be any penal action on anyone.
There can be no
Taxpayers' money, of course, will
chances
go back
taken
to
with
them as
drinking
compensation.
water. You know, there can be absolutely no chances. It's a basic human necessity. I appreciate the way Brinda Adige has put it, that heads must roll. It's not enough to simply penalize a junior engineer and think that we will believe you have taken action, because that is not going to help matters. I would really like to thank my guests this evening, Mr. Jaiswal and Brinda Adige. Thanks very much for joining us with your informed opinion.